The latest chapter of Hajime no Ippo, number 1488, was absolutely wild. Ever since the end of the intense fight between Ryo Mashiba and Marcus Rosario, George Morikawa has pressed the gas pedal to the floor, and this chapter gave us so much to talk about. It was packed with subtle emotions, hints, tension, and even a hidden clue that, in my eyes, clearly shows Ippo's desire to one day face Ricardo Martínez. Let's break it all down. The chapter opens at the pre-fight press conference for the upcoming WBA featherweight title match between Takeshi Sendo and Ricardo Martínez. The narration reminds us Ricardo, the man even Miyata couldn't reach, and Sendo, who swore to his grandmother on her hospital bed that he would win, are both present at this conference. What will happen between them? We skip the weigh-in and jump straight into the press event. And here, many fans in the community have pointed out that Sendo looks somewhat gaunt, perhaps even drained. But honestly, I'm nearly 100% sure that's just due to weight cut dehydration. We know his physical condition is top-notch. Ricardo, on the other hand, might look a bit distant or tired, but I don't think there's anything alarming there. Then we cut to Ippo, who has arrived in Osaka to attend the conference in person. To be completely honest, I kinda wish he had stayed in Tokyo, maybe spent more time with Kumi and Mashiba, especially given Mashiba's condition, which we'll talk about in a bit. Ippo could have easily watched the fight on TV, right? But hey, it is what it is. Now, here's something that completely caught my attention. The moment Ippo sees Ricardo Martínez, his heart starts pounding, and he blushes. Yes, Ippo, our Ippo, starts blushing, and that's huge. The only other times we've seen this reaction from him have been with Kumi and with Miyata, his eternal rival, his eternal maybe something more. But now this visceral reaction comes from seeing Ricardo. And to me, that's a massive sign. It shows how deeply he admires Ricardo, how much he looks up to him, maybe even how much he wants to fight him, just like he's always wanted to fight Miyata. This, my friends, is not just admiration. It's a spark, a calling, a future waiting to happen. Mari, the journalist, teases Ippo a bit. She asks if he's being a little rude, getting so worked up over Sendo's opponent. Ippo stammers and says Ricardo is a living legend, of course. But yes, he still hopes Sendo wins. Then we cut to Miyata. And oh boy, Ippo's reaction gets even more intense. He blushes harder, smiles like a teenage fangirl at a boy band concert and says, "I'm here too." It's adorable. It's ridiculous. It's Ippo. Mari rolls her eyes, obviously disappointed by how much of a fanboy Ippo is being. Ippo, now in full fan mode, starts nervously talking about how Miyata had sparred with Ricardo. Based on Miyata's bruised face, Ippo assumes he took a serious beating. He then recalls his own sparring match with Ricardo, where he was knocked out cold. Miyata cuts him off mid-sentence. "Shut up!" Ippo's face drops. Mari bursts out laughing. Now we move on to the press questions. A journalist asks Ricardo about his impressions of Japan since this is his second time visiting. Ricardo calmly says he didn't come for sightseeing. Not for the views, not for the scenery. This wasn't a vacation, but he admits that the Osaka castle is simply extraordinary, incomparable. And for me, that line hits differently. It reminds me of how Takamura once described the summit, that unreachable peak where only monsters reside. Something extraordinary, something beyond. The journalist then mentions how nearly every Japanese city has its own castle. Ricardo's eyes light up. He finds that very interesting. And I know I might be overthinking here, but that comment, it feels like foreshadowing, like he's planning to return, like maybe, just maybe, he'll stay in Japan a while longer after the fight. And if that happens, maybe another featherweight boxer from Japan will finally get the chance to face him. Back to Ippo. He's stunned, amazed. He can't believe how calm everything feels. There's no tension, none of the nervous energy you'd expect before a world title fight. Then comes the big question, what does Ricardo think of Takeshi Sendo? Ricardo takes a moment to reflect, and Ippo recalls what Ricardo said long ago about age date. Don't expect anything from him. That line stuck with Ippo. It showed how blunt, how ruthlessly honest Ricardo could be. So now, everyone braces for what he'll say about Sendo. But this time, Ricardo doesn't make a declaration. He asks a question. Can I expect something from you? He says it calmly, directly to Sendo. And Sendo lifts his head just a little. His eyes burn with hunger, with bloodlust, with something primal. Ricardo smirks. I see, so that's the kind of fight this will be. He didn't say much, but he said everything. Ippo gulps hard. Flashbulbs erupt. The face-off begins. Cameras flash like crazy as the two warriors stare each other down. The aura in that moment is overwhelming. You can almost feel the weight of it through the page. My hype? It's boiling, overflowing. The conference ends. Sendo says he's going to eat and will meet up with Ippo and Miyata in an hour and a half at the gym. Ippo tries to suggest maybe Sendo should go home and rest, maybe meditate, focus, clear his mind. But Sendo looks relaxed, calm. He's already done everything he had to do. All the training is done. All that's left is to fight, to release everything in the ring. And besides, no one's home anyway. We cut to the heart of Osaka, Shin Osaka Station. Ippo stands in front of a giant promotional poster. The King versus the Tiger, WBA Featherweight World Title match. Ricardo Martínez versus Takeshi Sendo. The match will take place in the stunning Osaka Castle Hall. It's majestic, epic, worthy of the moment. We even get a peek at ticket prices. The most expensive is about $190, mid-range tickets around $65, and the cheapest go for $32. Just in case you were curious. As Ippo explores the city, he sees the hype everywhere. Giant crab signs in Dotonbori, the iconic Gleiko Man, and people everywhere talking about the fight. Kids chat about how Sendo will become champion tomorrow. Even company workers say their bosses will let them leave early to watch the fight. A shy teenage girl asks if Sendo really has a chance. Her friend replies, "He's Sendo. He'll end it with one punch." Ippo thinks to himself, maybe no other local hero in any city is as loved as Sendo. He then brings up something to Miyata. Sendo was unusually quiet at the conference. It felt off. Miyata says he's probably saving all his energy, and Ippo agrees. This is the best condition he's ever seen Sendo in. The very line that gives this chapter its title. At the Naniwa Kentokai gym, Miyata relaxes while Ippo shadowboxes. Miyata was clearly uncomfortable with Ippo being there during his training, complaining to Sendo about his lateness. Meanwhile, on Ippo's side, he was perfectly fine spending time with Miyata. Then Sendo shows up. He wants to talk to both of them, one at a time. First he asks Ippo, "How's Mashiba doing?" Ippo hesitates. "You really want to talk about that now?" But he answers, Mashiba had a craniotomy. It was successful. He occasionally opens his eyes, but he still can't speak. They're not sure if there's further brain damage. He'll need rehabilitation. They'll reassess later. That's all Ippo knows. It's shocking. A craniotomy. They had to open his skull, probably to relieve a hemorrhage caused by the brutal fall and the relentless damage he took from the world champion. Ippo looks down, saddened. Miyata comments, "If he had a craniotomy, his boxing career is over." Sendo almost cheerfully says, "That's good." Ippo is stunned. But Sendo explains, "I'm just glad he's still breathing. That hits hard, hits me hard." Sendo then speaks with awe. Mashiba went into that ring ready to die, and that was amazing, inspiring. Sendo says he's going to do the same. Some fans think this is clear foreshadowing. Maybe Sendo might actually die in the ring. Personally, I'm not sure. Sometimes Morikawa makes these hints too obvious, too direct, and I start to think maybe he's planning the opposite. Not Ricardo dying, obviously, but maybe a shocking twist. Then Sendo turns to Miyata. He asks him directly, "Is Ricardo the one who messed up your face?" Miyata tries to dodge the question, even mentioning how Ricardo once left Ippo unconscious. But Sendo cuts through that. He asks sincerely, You've sparred with both of us. Do you think I can win? Ippo stares, wide-eyed. He remembers that earlier in the story, Miyata had said he couldn't see Sendo winning. But this time, Miyata answers, "Right now, you're the only one in the world who has a chance." And with that, the chapter ends. A masterpiece, an emotional roller coaster. And next week, we get more. If you made it this far and haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to stick around. Every week we'll break down these chapters, analyzing, reacting, celebrating one of the greatest manga ever written. Good night, champ.